Okay, sounds good. So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about combining marketing and technical content with XML documentation add-on for Adobe Experience Manager. A little bit about me. My name is Dustin Vaughn. I'm the Solution Consulting Manager for Adobe on our technical publication side of the business. And I'm very fortunate. I am privileged to speak to a lot of customers worldwide. And as I was looking through the list of folks who had joined, I see many names that I recognize and want to welcome all of you. I'm an Adobe certified expert in FrameMaker, and as a portion of my job, I'm privileged to be panelist, speaker, go to various industry conferences, as well as myself and my team provide lots of demos of our products and really show how our solutions fit the problems that our customers face. So as far as the agenda for this particular session, I'm going to begin with a little bit of background of the XML documentation add-on and how that particular product came about. I'm going to give you some important aspects of the documentation add-on. And then we're going to talk specifically about bringing these two worlds together, the marketing content and the technical content. Because as we move forward, that is vitally important, as Naz mentioned. And then I will show you a demo where we take some technical content, mix it with some marketing content, and deliver it in real time. So definitely excited to show you guys that. So as far as the background of this particular offering that we have, it is built completely around the DITA standard. So as far as support goes, we've got DITA 1.2 and 1.3 support. We've already started introducing lightweight DITA support with our XML documentation add-on. Certainly things like conrefs, keys, conditional content through DITA vals, even specializations of DITA. So if you're in an environment where you've specialized DITA, that will absolutely work, no problem. And we know that when it comes to creating DITA content, certainly as far as within the Adobe environment, we've got very robust publishing through FrameMaker and FrameMaker Publishing Server. And so we have integrations there, but there may be some customers, some folks that are on the line that maybe your organization in the past has used a different tool. And so you've spent money on customizing, doing the programming for the DITA Open Toolkit to get your outputs exactly the way you need. And we do have out-of-the-box support for DITA Open Toolkit. So you're going to be able to leverage that investment if that's you and you're in that spot as far as your organization goes. So for those of you, you may or may not be aware of Adobe Experience Manager, but it is really the enterprise web content management system that Adobe has, and it has multiple products or areas within that. Adobe Experience Manager assets and sites, mobile, forms, communities. And we heard from our customers that they're creating DITA content, and maybe the marketing team had Adobe Experience Manager as their web content management system. So we heard from many of our customers that we want to connect the two dots. We want those two worlds to coexist, and much at a deeper level than just placing content into Adobe Experience Manager. And so that's really what brought about this idea of the XML documentation add-on. And so what we did is make Adobe Experience Manager, the web content management system, also into a component content management system for DITA content. So it understands DITA at a component level and provides all of those functions that you would expect from a component content management system. And so it truly does become an end-to-end solution for your DITA content. So if we take a look at a high level as far as the solution built on Adobe Experience Manager, we wanted this to be really an integrated toolkit so that it provided an end-to-end experience. And because it's built on Adobe Experience Manager, because of that foundation, you get best-in-class data management and project management, workflow capabilities, user management. Those are things absolutely out of the box that are part of it. You get integration into Adobe Marketing Cloud because Adobe Experience Manager is part of that Adobe Marketing Cloud. So you have tight integration with analytics and communities and Scene 7, things like that. And it really just lays the foundation for really a holistic approach to your content strategy. From an authoring perspective, so when we take a look at the solution, there are really several pillars that are important, and that's where I'm going to talk over the next few slides. First one, from an author perspective. We know that within organizations, there's many different types of authors. So certainly you have your technical communicators that have a robust authoring tool set, something like FrameMaker to author their content. And so certainly we have deep integration with FrameMaker from this XML documentation add-on. But there are also many other types of authors and people that would like to contribute content. Maybe they are subject matter experts or editors, someone who may contribute content on an infrequent basis. And so they want something that doesn't require, it's very simple, even if it's been months since the last time they've used it. Maybe it's online. And so we provide an online web editor for DITA content. And it hides the complexity so that if your subject matter experts don't even know how to spell XML, they're still able to contribute content and be productive. So I'll definitely show you in the demo portion our online editor that you would have access to with the solution. Workflow is also a central piece when it comes to Adobe Experience Manager. And just like you would expect with Adobe tools, it's very graphical in nature, very easy to do drag and drop. So within your organization, when you take a look at implementing a new tool, a component content management system, oftentimes what I've seen in organizations that I've talked to, they may want to mimic their current workflow so that the transition is easy. And really, it's just automating what they're already doing today in a manual process. So you can absolutely, through drag and drop, set up a workflow that mimics your current workflow. You can trigger email notifications so that when the workflow progresses to the next step, the person or the group will get an email with a link. They're able to click on it and jump right into the work that they need to accomplish. Over time, you can improve your workflows, or you can implement workflows that are maybe new to your organization and really allow you to streamline and expedite your content creation. We also have, as another pillar of the solution, when it comes to localization of content. We have integrations into 14 different translation vendors, and we have APIs for additional, so that you could create a connection into whatever translation vendor you may use. Everything from machine translation provided by Microsoft, manual translation with the most popular translation vendors that are on the market today. So rather than being an entirely manual process, you can kick that off right there from within Adobe Experience Manager. Select the content you want to translate, select the language that is your target, and go ahead and send that content off for translation. When it comes back, you can set it up for review and approval to make sure that everything is translated and looks good. You can view reports where you have the ability to see what's been approved, what's been reviewed, if there are any topics that may have changed in your source language, be it English or another language as your source. If it's changed, it'll show a flag that, hey, something's changed here, so that you know that you need to go and get that translated potentially before you publish again in a different language. I mentioned the review and approval workflows, definitely important when it comes to the content lifecycle. Publishing is also extremely important, and one of the real benefits of this solution. So we really provide best-in-class publishing capabilities and really provide options as far as publishing. So you can publish directly with FrameMaker Publishing Server. So if your organization is using FrameMaker today, creating content, whether it's unstructured, whether it's DITA content, we have integration with FrameMaker Publishing Server so that you can leverage what you've built today. You're going to have very fine control over the way that your PDF looks. You're going to be able to publish to things like responsive HTML5 that conforms to the size of the screen that your user has, whether it's a desktop or a tablet or a mobile phone. You're going to be able to publish EPUB and Kindle formats, so ebooks. You can publish native applications for iOS and Android. So you've got a lot of different possibilities when it comes to publishing. And I mentioned a little bit earlier, if your organization happens to be one where your technical publication team uses a different authoring tool, and maybe you've customized the DITA Open Toolkit for your publishing, you're going to be able to leverage that investment. So we have out-of-the-box integration with DITA Open Toolkit. And then certainly, last but not least, publishing to AEM sites. So if your organization has Adobe Experience Manager today and they're using AEM for your web presence, you have the ability to single-click publish into Adobe Experience Manager sites. And even mixed content, which is what I'm going to talk here shortly about, between marketing content and your technical content. All right, so if we take a look at most organizations that I've talked to, really regardless of the industry, you see these silos between specifically marketing and technical publication groups, and there may be different tools that are used. So you've got different authoring tools to create content. Certainly, oftentimes marketing and technical content vary in terms of complexity and exactly what's being delivered. And there's this struggle to keep those templates in sync and content so that you can deliver content that really is a transparent, it doesn't appear that it's been delivered from one group or the other. And oftentimes what we see is multiple copies of the content. So maybe technical documentation team creates a user guide or, some document that marketing wants to use a piece of. And what they end up doing is making a copy of that and pasting it into their content and delivering it to their customers. And really that becomes a nightmare for the writing teams, because if the content changes in one location, you've got to remember to go change it in all of the other locations that it's used. It becomes an IT nightmare to support. Oftentimes there may be multiple content management systems in play. So it just becomes very difficult to manage. And certainly anytime there are these silos, it just makes it more difficult and time consuming to get things done and deliver that customer experience. And ultimately, the goal of this is that really the content is king. So that marketing and your technical content are combined in a unified content strategy. And if you're able to achieve that, it really provides a lot of benefits. So things like content sharing and reuse, where you're able to share content created in various tools with various departments in a way that's very easy to maintain it in one location, deliver it omni-channel in all of the different formats that you may need to. It allows you to deliver a consistent user experience for both internal and external users, and that's extremely critical to where it's one voice to the customer. So they may have various needs at various stages through the process, whether it's pre-sales or post-sales, and just getting that unified experience and the content that they need in the format that they need is important. And certainly another benefit is being able to reduce that total cost of ownership when it comes to creating and managing your content. So how do we accomplish this? If we look at it from a high level, we want to do a blend of our publishing. So maybe we have multiple content management systems. We've got web components that are created by the marketing team. We've got DITA content created by the technical documentation team. So within the content management system or the CCMS, we've got DITA content, we've got other web content. And how do we bring those two together to where we're not copying and pasting and maintaining multiple versions of the same content just so that we can deliver it in multiple ways? So the way that we're able to accomplish that through publishing is publishing to AEM sites. And this is what I will show in a demo here shortly, where you're really combining those web components, the DITA content, and you're able to place them where you need to for the particular deliverable. And they're each maintained by whoever created it. So if it's a DITA topic, for instance, if that gets updated, when it gets republished, that content is going to be reflected in all of the different outputs that you may generate. So if it's going to PDF, it's going to a marketing website, wherever that content may be used, when you republish, it's going to show those updates. And it really allows you to, as it says, inject that technical content into various marketing and other technical communication content. And ultimately, that allows you that reuse. So rather than copy-paste reuse, I know, organizations I've worked at in the past and a lot of organizations I've talked to, it's a very common form of reuse, copy paste, and then you've got to maintain it. And so it's getting you well beyond that to where you're truly single sourcing your content and able to deliver that. And ultimately, it's the consistency that's the key here, and specifically the user experience. When it comes to the user experience, we've got the look and feel across your various deliverables, how easy the content is to consume, that standard user engagement to where it's not siloed and not a siloed approach. It's a unified approach for user engagement, and then certainly personalization and targeting. These are all keys and things that are eased when you're able to deliver content regardless of the underlying, whether it's DITA content or content created maybe by someone else. And then certainly the ultimate goal is to increase your content velocity. So no need to convert content. Maybe it's DITA content. You don't have to convert it to some other format, or, you know, vice versa, converting content into DITA on the fly. You can republish your changes very quickly rather than having to pull it all together and republish the entire set. All right, so with that, let's take a look at a demo. I'm going to go ahead and minimize here. And for those of you that are in FrameMaker, I wanted to just briefly show the connector that we have into Adobe Experience Manager and this XML add-on. Because certainly you may have seen we have a CMS menu where you can simply connect. Go to the connection manager, type in your information, and connect directly. From this tree view of your documentation, you'll see anything that you have access to. And you'll see I've created a folder here called DITA World. I've got a DITA map inside there. I've got various other content here that I can do things right here within FrameMaker. So I can check out content if I want to do that. I can view dependents and metadata and versions. I could open it read only. If I wanted to make a change, for instance, here, I could do a right click and check out. It will open here in FrameMaker, and I can make a change. Make a quick change and save it. I'm able to check it back in. I can give it a version label if I want to, click OK, and it's now created a new version. So just wanted to kind of start off here for those of you that are in FrameMaker, because we're going to switch over to the AEM view of the content, and I'm going to show you some of the things that we talked about. But from a FrameMaker perspective, we have that deep integration. So if you, you know, for your writers using FrameMaker, you're able to access the content and interact, even comment and things like that directly from this interface. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over into Adobe Experience Manager. And I happen to have some content right here that is a mix of both technical and marketing content. And so I can click here within this editor that I've got. I can double click. This happens to be some marketing content that's saved here. I could make changes. I'll just cancel that for now. And then you'll see right here, I've got this geometrics basic spaceship, and this happens to be some DITA content that I'm mixing in. And I'm able to make a change within that web editor. So I mentioned to you that we have a web editor where you're able to edit topics directly. And so let's switch over there. I'm going to switch into Adobe Experience Manager. This is Assets, happens to be within a folder here where I've got a particular DITA topic. And if I hover over here, I can edit this DITA topic directly here within my web browser. And so you'll see I've got the content here. I've got options if I wanted to insert numbered list, bulleted list, things like that. If I wanted to, I could also switch into the code view, and you'll see that it is clean DITA content here. But in this case, let's switch to the author mode. Very easy to insert content. I could even drag and drop images. If I wanted to search, I can do that and search for content here that I might want to drag in. But let's just make a simple change here. And instead of geometrics basic spaceship, let's call it the DITA world. basic spaceship. So we can make changes, add content as needed, and then ultimately we end up saving this content. And you'll see that it is now saved. I can close this file, and what I'm going to do is actually kick off a publish that is going to update this website that we took a look at. So the way I do that, and I'm going to do it manually so that you see the process and how it's connected, but ultimately this could be handled via workflow. So we talked about workflow that you can set up to map and automate certain processes. And one of the ways that you could do this is within a particular folder. If a file's changed, you could kick off the publish automatically so that you wouldn't republish. But in this case, we want to manually publish this. We want to control when that content is updated on the website. So here within the DITA map, I'm just going to click, and you'll see I mentioned that we've got reporting capabilities. If I click over here, you'll see in this case we've got a single topic. It'll show us if this content's been reviewed or approved. It'll show us if there's any missing links or anything that may be a concern. So this is really a health check for your content that you can see right here in your browser. You can open the content in FrameMaker. You can edit it in the web editor. You've got information about translation. So you can see the various, in this case, we've just got the English content here, but I could translate this into multiple languages and I'd be able to see if anything is in sync or out of sync, where maybe the English had been updated and hadn't propagated into the other languages. But in this case, we're just going to update this English site with the content that we just changed. And so you'll see here, I've got multiple outputs that I could generate. I could create PDF or HTML5, and I can even create custom outputs if needed. But in this case, what we want to do is update our marketing website. So this is the one that we want to generate. And to do that, all I have to do is click the generate button here. So if I click that, you'll see that I get a message that it started. If I click over on outputs, you'll see that quickly that content has been updated. So if I click over here and reload the page, you'll see that instead on the right-hand side here, that Geometrics basic spaceship is now the DITA World basic spaceship. So without having to have access to necessarily the where this was used or the marketing website, I'm able to publish, and those changes are going to be picked up in wherever that's going to be produced. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close. I see we've got some time here, so thought I would show you the translation capabilities as well. So I'm going to just go up a couple of levels here in my folder structure. I've created some content here in a DITA World folder that I had uploaded prior to this session here. And what I want to do is go ahead and translate the contents of a folder. So in this case, let's generate this general description folder. So what I'm going to do is just select it. And then from the sidebar here, I want to take a look at my references. And you'll see that it gives me a listing here that I've got English content here as my source. But what I want to do is translate this content into another language. And the way I'm going to do that is down here at the bottom, it says create and translate. And if I click that, you'll see that I'm able to create a new translation project, or if I have a translation project that I've created in the past, I can use that as well. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and generate a new project. And this is one of those workflows that I had mentioned earlier. So in this case, it happens to be using the Microsoft machine translation, just so that for this demo, you can translate and get the content very quickly. And I believe I saw Juhi mention in the chat, and I appreciate that. I am generating a subfolder here. Typically, you would generate at the higher level, but because of the amount of content, I wanted to make sure that it would translate quickly and come back. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. If you use a different translation provider, you would select that here in the dropdown. You'll see for a target language, I've set up French and Spanish as the languages that I wanted to set up as targets. Very easy to set up the number of languages that you want to translate to. And then I just give it a title. So in this case, let's call it DITA World and tell it create. So what that has done, if I come over here in the projects area of Adobe Experience Manager, and I do a quick refresh, you see that I now have a DITA World folder. And if I click within that, and I am having a little bit, I think there's a little bit of a lag time, and I'm not sure why. Let me try something else. Let's go to one that has previously been generated here. So let me go up. Sometimes we get a little bit of a lag when it's running locally on the machine, so I apologize for that. Let's come over into an existing folder that we have, like this D1 folder, and let's translate the operating limitations folder. And you'll see in this case, I've got English and I've got Spanish. So let's do the same thing, but instead let's just add it to an existing process that I've got here. I'm going to translate this into French and attach it to this D1 translate since I had previously created that. If I click create, let's go back to the project, this D1 translate. We do have a French project now that's been created. And if I click there, you'll see it had some content that had previously been reviewed there. So that's a previous one, but you'll see that I've got a new translation job here on the right-hand side that is listed as draft status. So it's identified 7 assets there that need to be translated. From this project folder, you'll see I can do things like add team members that are going to work on a particular project. I've got a task list that I can create. Whether things are in review or approval status, you'll be able to see that here from this dashboard. But in this case, with this particular translation job, I'm going to go ahead and start this translation job. And if I refresh, you'll see it'll go from draft to translation in progress. So the content has been sent over to the translation provider. And in this case, because it's machine translation, it comes back very quickly and says that that content is ready for review. So that's all there is to it as far as running that particular workflow that is set up. And in this case, we've set up the operating limitations. I can go about this multiple ways. I could go and see the content that I had created, that it translated. I can come in here. And I've got my list of topics. I've got my reports. If I switch to translation, you'll see here's my operating limitations, and you'll see that it generated, there is my French content that was generated just a minute or so ago. And then I had previously created Spanish content. And it's telling me that this content is in sync. So it's a quick and easy way to see that this content is ready as far as in sync with the English source that I'd created. If I made a change to the English source, then it would show that they were out of sync. In this case, you'll see we also have where they're missing copies. So if I were to click on that, you'll see in this case, for this particular content, the French and the Spanish have not been created yet. So it's a great way, if you do a lot of language translation, to see exactly where that content is in your translation lifecycle. All right. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to, actually, I've got a quick slide here with contact information. So certainly, if you have any questions on this, if you'd like to see a deeper dive of the solution, definitely happy to help with that. Here's my contact information. We can provide this as well for you at any point. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and kick it back over to Stefan if we had any questions before we wrap up.
I currently do not see any questions, so not sure if there are any questions. We still have a few minutes, 5 minutes or so, where we could discuss that. Maybe we give just a few more minutes, Dustin.
Absolutely. And I did see the question now as I'm looking through about the preview, and I believe Juhi had responded to that one. Yes, you would typically generate to an internal server and then publish over to the external. I do see a question specific to translation vendor, and yes, that is supported, one of the supported translation vendors that we have. As far as branching, yes, Adobe Experience Manager does allow you to branch content. As far as recommending any particular translation engine, we integrate with the most popular ones on the market, and we have the ability to extend that. I'm not aware of an actual recommendation that Adobe has as a formal recommendation that we make as far as that goes.
Yeah, but Randall, you can write an email to TechComm@adobe.com, and then we can discuss this in more detail.
Absolutely.
Which translation tools are already integrated, and which one might be available for you.
So, Paul, as far as blended publishing that I showed today, it was to AEM sites. Is the particular output that we had generated. Rebecca, that's a great question. She's asking what kind of price point as far as Adobe Experience Manager. There are many different ways that AEM, I mentioned there's 5 different products that make up Adobe Experience Manager. They can be on-premise versus managed services. So there are a lot of variables involved. So I'll go ahead and put in my email address here in the chat. If you'll reach out to me, definitely can assist as far as that goes. And we can drill down to what would make sense in your organization.
Cool.
How robust are the user permissions for content? So within AEM, just part of the core product, There are certainly robust capabilities as far as user permissions for content. So, Tom, again, I would say if you would reach out, we can dive a lot deeper into that particular question and make sure that we show you or answer any questions that you may have as far as that goes. No problem.
Okay. Did you answer the question from Paul Magai? Does blended publishing easily support mixing DITA and HTML authored content to any output?
Yeah, so what we showed today was specific to AEM sites.
What you can do, Paul, is you can also integrate FrameMaker publishing server, and then you have a lot more output options like EPUB and Amazon Kindle and PDFs and customized responsive HTML5 online helps and stuff like that. So that's also a possibility.
Absolutely.
I see Yuhi's answering something as well.
Right.
Yeah, that's
so, Paul, if you have some specific needs or use cases, definitely reach out. I'd love to talk to you about that.
Okay, wonderful. Dustin, thanks very much for your presentation. And I stopped the recording now for this session. And we have the next presenter in the room already, Rahel and Bailey.